This podcast has been brought to you by GM Moving, part of Greater Sport. We're here to help the people of Greater Manchester get moving and to improve lives through physical activity.
Hi, I'm Eve Holt, Strategic Director at GM Moving, and for today's podcast I'm having a conversation with Pete and Shirley as our mental health ambassadors at Greater Sport. So this week is Mental Health Awareness Week and the theme is Be Kind. Hi Pete and Shirley, thank you for joining me for today's podcast. Can you both just give a quick introduction to yourselves and your roles at Greater Sport and GM Moving?
Hi, I'm Shirley Hurst. I'm Senior Relationship Manager at Greater Sport, and I take a lead on mental health and wellbeing for the organisation across Greater Manchester.
And I'm Pete Crothers. I'm the Senior Officer for Moving Forces, but I'm also the mental health lead for the team, so on the internal aspects of it, and also support Shirley with some of the external stuff as well.
Thank you both for joining me today. So obviously it's Mental Health Awareness Week, so we're looking at particularly at the links between physical activity, keeping moving and staying mentally well. So Shirley, do you want to give us a bit of a context about how the two of these relate to each other and why it's important to think about how we move this week?
Yeah, well, a lot of the work we do at Greater Sport and through the GM Moving is around changing lives through physical activity and sport. And one of the biggest things that physical activity benefits is mental health and well-being. So it's a real integral part of everything we do. And we're really focusing on how physical activity can help prevent mental health problems and actually focusing on the real benefits physically, health-wise and around mental well-being of being physically active. It's great to get somebody who is inactive to be active and actually they see some wider benefits, whether that's connecting to other people who are doing activity in groups or within the community, or it may just be getting somebody actually out of the house to get the benefits of walking in the fresh air. So yeah, we're really aware of the health benefits of physical activity and also the benefits of that around people's mental health and well-being generally.
Anything you'd want to add to that, Pete?
No, I think Shirley summed it up quite well. I think what comes across there is that physical activity doesn't do just one thing for mental well-being. So obviously there's the obvious physical effects that we perhaps know most about, which is like the hormones, the happy hormones that are produced by exercising. So those things that help ourselves keep that mood a bit higher, but also the other things that sport and physical activity can do as well in terms of the social aspect and keeping us connected, getting us outside, getting us to see things that inspire us that are different from staring at the four walls. It does all these things in one, and there's different things for different people. Some people might get what they need by working out in front of a screen in their front room. Other people might need to get outside and see the nature around them or see people going past. So it's finding what each individual needs really, and physical activity can usually provide that.
And this might be really small things. So, a lot of the work we do is really thinking about how people can keep moving in some of the simplest ways, in terms of just going out, as you said, sort of for a walk around the block, or as you referred to there, Pete, in terms of paying attention to nature. I hung upside down for a little bit yesterday and it certainly improved my mood. I didn't even leave the room. I didn't have to go very far at all. So it really is about how we keep moving in different ways, isn't it, in a way that suits you and whatever your circumstances are. But that's obviously been made a lot more difficult in recent weeks during COVID lockdown. So can you share a little bit about why is it so important right now during this COVID crisis that we keep moving, and why is it particularly important in terms of our mental health?
It's no surprise that the government are recommending that we exercise, and because they know the benefits that it has. And I think the reason it's so important now, as much as perhaps more than ever, is because we're in a situation that is going to affect our mental health adversely. And, you know, it's a scary time. It's a time when we're going to be anxious. It's a time when we're going to be sad because we're not seeing people, because we're disconnected from families, because we're stressed about perhaps lower income, about whether our jobs are safe. There's a huge number of reasons why it's perfectly rational for us to be feeling low and for our mental well-being to be suffering. And so we can't fix that. We can't wave a magic wand and that's all gone. But what we do know is that having some exercise, getting outside if you can, or doing something in your front room or in your kitchen or in your garage or whatever it is, getting your blood pumping, we know that has a positive effect. It can lift your mood. It can even just be a distraction. So it's like that mindfulness effect as well from the scary wall-to-wall news that we've got. So there's so many reasons why it is so positive to be active right now. But it also links into that idea of, do you know what, just because someone is anxious or feeling sad or depressed, if you want to call it that, then there's nothing wrong with them. That's completely understandable because of the times we're in. And so that's why it does affect everyone. And this is something that is available to everyone through adaptation, if people need that, to be able to make some sort of positive effect to limit the effect of the situation that we're in.
So we know from the evidence that it's really important. We know that it supports our mental health. And we know from the statistics that it is already improving. People are finding it as a real boost to their mood and a sort of stabiliser in those kind of very uncertain, anxious times that you describe there, Pete. So, and we're getting some of those stories, you know, we're all hearing them through our work and for our own families of, you know, people really enjoying their daily dose, and that really being a moment that does bring them joy and really lift their mood for all those reasons. So given all of that and these clear messages from the government, how have you adapted what you're doing and how you're doing it, and to really support others to stay active, to keep moving during this time?
So what we did quite early, we identified that that there were certain threats to the team and, you know, on the internal side of things, which is what I've been focused on predominantly. So we realised that people were potentially going to be isolated, and we also recognised that we are the experts in is keeping active and why we should be active. So we wanted to promote that within the team first and foremost, and, you know, be the proof of concept ourselves to lead an example to others as well online and be leaders in that as well. So we straight away found ways to connect, whether that was meeting up for a lunchtime chat just on Zoom, just so we can see each other's faces and not talk about work. Or we also had the morning plank, which is just a 15-20 minute opportunity for people to get active, but also have a little check-in, see how everyone was feeling that morning before we set off on our day. And other things like Zoom workouts where the team could come together and have a bit of a laugh with an informal circuit training session. And we're constantly working on that and finding what works for different people. Some people are quite happy to just work out on their own, and they've got maybe their partners with them that are sort of giving them the support that they need. But there are others that perhaps need that connection with the team. And so it's making sure you've got that flexibility and that offer for people should they need it.
Okay, just to add to that, I think just at the moment, the workplace and other organisations that we work with, allowing that flexibility to build physical activity within your day, and that will be different for every person. So in my case, with a young family, every day is slightly different, and so, you know, activity needs to be planned into the day to give the kids plenty of fresh air and to break the day up slightly. But also, I just think it's the less worry around working at home in this crisis of having to get in a car and commute to work. And actually, that is certainly allowing more time in the full day to be able to incorporate exercise, whether that's individually on your own, at whatever time suits you, and whatever time of the day you need that sort of boost to keep going through the day. I think the other thing as well is there is a lot of resources that we have shared from other expert organisations to help support people in the organisation, to give different expert advice on ways of dealing with the current situation, but also tips and pointers if anybody's struggling and And certainly in Greater Manchester, there is plenty of support over the phone or online for anybody who may be really struggling.
So that flexibility so that you can design moving into your day, which feels, as you say, very important for all of us at the minute. And speaking to Ruth at Manchester Mind, and she was explaining from her personal experience, the difference that's made for her and her well-being to be able to segment her day into chunks and actually, go and have a walk outside, do some yoga, do all those things that we know are good for us, but often in our normal world, we just really struggle to make time for, or to do it at a time that works for us. It becomes something you meant to do at the end of the day, and how many of us get to the end of the working day and just want to slump. So the idea of then going off and being active. So in thinking about how we kind of reimagine the future in this new norm, to include rethinking the way we work and the ways that employers can really support our workforce to stay physically and mentally well. Are there any particular things that you're now thinking you would like to design into the future at Greater Sports, at GM Moving, and for you personally?
So in terms of the organisation Greater Sport, certainly we do have a flexible working policy which is really well received and really helps out. We do have things in there such as 45 minutes of activities allowed as part of your working day every week. But certainly the introduction of walking meetings, I think opportunity to enhance package around cycling to work and really to give people the confidence and the equipment needed potentially to be able to do that. So it's something that I've certainly done more in the last couple of months, is get on my bike because the streets are a lot quieter, and I've noticed a big difference in my confidence levels of cycling on main roads, cycling into the city centre, which I would have never have done previously. So I think it's around looking at that and looking at people's potentially commute to work and the support that we can give around that. But just to what I referred to before, that flexible working day and probably some practical examples from different people in the organisation of how we work that into a working day, and that will be different for every person, but it will be really great to start sharing a catalogue of ways that people do it, whatever their age, whatever their circumstance, and really share that across a lot of the partners we work with within GM Moving in Greater Manchester. Personally, I've found quite a few differences. One is the time that I've just referred to about not having to rush around dropping kids off and then get to work and then get to meetings and then get home to cook, but really about just having that extra time in a day to incorporate physical activity, not just for myself personally, but for the whole family. So we've had increased trips out on bikes into the park, but also previously not being somebody who did yoga, I'm now regularly doing cosmic kids yoga, whether that's trolls-based yoga or frozen yoga. But my daughter certainly opened that door for me that I never even knew existed around doing yoga sessions at home that were fun, with music and together as a family. So there's certainly been changes in my household, which I think's kept us all feeling really good at times of the day where sometimes it gets a bit much.
We need to bring that one to Greater Sport. I think it's time to have a bit of frozen yoga on our agenda one day.
Yeah.
So active travel there, being able to get out and enjoy, whether it's for leisure purposes with your family out on your bike, or then to be able to design that into the way that we are getting around for work purposes, and this flexibility to choose what you want to do, be that trolls or frozen yoga or anything else. Is there anything you'd want to add to that, Pete, really, as we think about things that we want to take with us in the future, or anything specifically, I guess, that as employers or staff might want to think about designing into their days in the future?
Yeah, in terms of the activity side, I'd love it if if and when we're regularly back in the office, that we could find time to work out together, even if it's just a 15-minute plank in the morning. Well, not 15 minutes straight, obviously, that would be including chat before and after. But, just doing things like that, or, because, we've been pretty good in the past at going for our daily mile, just after lunch, perhaps, or, walking to the supermarket and back together to get our lunch. But, yeah, just being a bit more having a bit more variety with that and being a bit more thoughtful as to what it is that we can do. But I think keeping those digital links as well, so that you don't have to be in the office to be taking part in things, but, you know, would really cement that commitment to flexible working that we have, so that you can still feel connected and be active without having to commute into the office every day, which I think is really good, not only environmentally and you know, sustainability wise for the future, but just in terms of, it's just made us think a little bit more about how we can keep connected and socially connected, as well as the physical activity side of things, while we're separate. So those are the things I think I'd really like to try and keep up, that flexibility, that adaptation that we've brought in. Important that we don't lose that. Personally, I think I've gone through two phases. So, as you know, I became the dad to a little boy 4 weeks ago, and it's very different. So the time before that, I was doing everything. I was doing all the workout sessions. I was doing the plank every day. I was going out for runs, doing little workouts on my own. Suddenly there's not as much time to do that, or I'm not able to commit to say, oh yes, I'll definitely be free at that time on that day, because at the moment it's all hands to the pump looking after this little person. So it's good that I've had that insight into both sides of the coin, really. And I think making sure that we have offers for the team that take that into account. There's people that have got little children that might not be able to do the things that those of us with older children or that don't have children would be able to do. So keeping that in mind as well is really important.
I think as well, just to add on to that, I think it'd be really good with so many people working from home that workplaces could re-emphasise that daily mile. So as Pete just alluded to, we've come from a culture of, we've started to do a daily mile, you know, as an office group. But now, being isolated, although people have gone out for walks, it would be really good to see more employers actually advocating that message, that even though people are sat in their houses, that actually, you know, as part of their day, could they do a daily mile at some point in the day, or all at the same time, you know, potentially all at a set time if that team was together. Or so I think that would be a really good opportunity, you know, for ways to businesses to engage, to ensure that their workforce, although they're not physically with them, could still do a daily mile within a day, just to split the day up for them. And I suppose the other thing just put in there is a lot of people do physical activity and sport for their community and social reasons, and this has been affected massively at the moment. And it's just around, we've spoken a lot about going outside walking, doing things online, but it's really important that we're going to work with communities and social groups and sports clubs to rebuild what that looks like for them, because there's so many people out there who don't like exercising, and actually they go to a club or a group within their community to exercise, to be with people and, you know, not be isolated. So I think there's a really important piece of work we need to do out when we start to rebuild, to make sure that this continues, because it's so important for people to connect with other people, and physical activity and sport is a real key way of doing that.
That does feel really important in terms of it being, as you say, an opportunity for that social connection. And it made me think of, there was an article just last week, I think, where child mental health experts were, you know, really urging the government to prioritise children's play in the reopening of schools, and really thinking about, you know, whilst again we're emerging from lockdown and, you know, all the anxiety that creates, it was good to see such an emphasis on the importance of play and being active as real means of supporting our mental health of whatever age, and facilitating that, getting used to be honest, to interacting again, because when you've got so used to not seeing people, it can actually become quite hard. It can be quite anxiety provoking for people to get back into the habit of socializing. So anything that helps sort of break the ice, which physical activity and sport can do so well, can't it? It isn't, as you say, it's often it's not just about the actual physicality of it. It is a tool for bringing people together, enabling them to connect with each other and tackling that isolation that so many people have felt over recent weeks. So so many benefits, and feels so important now and so important as we go forward.
On that point, Eve, there will also be, like, coming back into when normality starts to be rebuilt back in, is there will be a lot of anxiety out there in terms of that reconnecting with people and getting back to engaging with other people and community, that it's really important we support our sector around training, you know, people, groups and who are providing physical activity or clubs, you know, being able to open up doors, but also to be able to recognise any signs of people that are struggling. And one thing that we will be providing this week is potential online training for anybody within the sector who wants a little bit of training to sort of be able to deal with any issues or spot some signs that come up, because I think there will be a high number of people that, although they want to get back into the social and community scene, and a lot of that is through physical activity and sport, there will still be struggles out there, as you've just alluded to.
Yeah, so training, supporting everybody to be able to look out for those signs, and then to remember that, you know, ways of being active may be one tool, one means, whether that's doing a daily mile, doing a plank as we've been doing it, or whatever it is, whatever it looks like, and that may be a way in which you can help connect people and to, as you say, break the ice again.
And I think as well, with your reference to children and how important it is for children to be active for their own mental well-being, I think the fact that it is, I mean, you kind of said it there as well. It is one element, and it's important that we bring well-being together into one thing, really. That you can't have one without the other. You can't have physical activity without good diet, without being able to have good emotional intelligence. You know, encouraging children to talk about emotions and how to deal with things, you know, particularly after the time that they've been through, you know, during their formative years, having to deal with this that we're going through. I think it's all one, it all needs to come together as one. It's not like you can just go, well, we'll just do physical activity and that'll fix it. We do need to bring that all together and acknowledge that they're all different sides of one coin that we need to get right, I think, for children particularly, I think.
Absolutely, and they all interact with each other, don't they? I know if I've been active, if I've been outside, if I've, you know, interacted with other people, I'm far more likely to then also pay attention to what I'm eating and take control over other aspects of my life. So they all have a positive knock-on impact on each other, whichever way you start. When I think of the 5 ways to wellbeing that came out of the research by the New Economics Foundation, probably, was it 10 or 15 years ago now, but often still is one of the kind of key anchors. I remember thinking riding my bike was about one of the few things that could satisfy all 5. So I think the 5 are, you know, be active, connect, give, take notice, and what's the 5th? You always forget the 5th, don't you? Yeah, keep learning. And I think it's the only thing where I could think of where just by playing out on my bike, I was often doing all 5. So it wasn't necessarily riding my bike that was the important bit, but it was all the other things that also come into play on often when we're being active in one way or another. So we've talked about training, we've talked about all these links. Do you think there's more work to be done to ensure that, I guess, whether it's the general public or it's our leaders across the Greater Manchester ecosystem, or any particular parts maybe that ecosystem, for people really to think, when they're thinking about mental health, to also be thinking about our physical health and how we keep moving? Do you think we've got a way to go still before they are seen as so interdependent, or are we there?
No, I think we've still got quite a way to go. I think generally there is a really good, we're in a great place in terms of starting to connect moving and physical activity with a lot of other things, like we've just said, with good health, with emotional intelligence. And I think our challenge is making sure that every person understands that, and organisations and leaders understand that you don't have to be a person that's working in physical activity or sport to be able to pass on the message to get moving. It will benefit your physical and mental well-being. It's about, you know, as many people as possible portraying that message that it is of benefit to your health, or it is of benefit to connect you with people if you're isolated. So I think we have got, and it's just really about aligning our message around moving and, you know, being physically active to as many different people, organisations, sectors as possible, because as we've just alluded to be well and have really good well-being, which has an impact on all of your life, physical activity really is a great way to contribute to that.
Well, that sounds like a great note to finish on, a fantastic call to action for colleagues and friends and peers across Greater Manchester to work with us and help GM keep moving. And given that the theme of this week is kindness, let's all do it in a way that's kind and support each other to keep moving, stay well, and thank you for today. And look forward to seeing you in circuit training or whatever's next on our list for the week. I'm sure if anybody is interested in knowing what we're doing, either as an employer at Greater Sport or in terms of our wider work, they can get in touch with either of you or with me, and we'd love to work with others and keep learning together. Thank you to Pete and Shirley, and have a great rest of the week. Let's be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, why not share it or tell a friend about it? And if you've got feedback or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch with our team at Greater Sport using the links that you'll find on our podcast page.